Okay, today everyone. Welcome to this Board of Commissioners regularly scheduled meeting. It is August 11th, 2026. It is now 12:02 p.m. here at GHURA's main office. Sorry, start that one more time. Today everyone. Welcome to this Board of Commissioners regularly scheduled meeting. It is August 11th. It is now 12:02 p.m. here at GHURA's main office in the beautiful village of Sinaanya. Let us begin with roll call. Vice Chair Sanchez. Here. Thank you much. Commissioner Delia, I know is not able to join us. Commissioner Rice.
Present.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioner Torres.
Present.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Corpus.
Present.
Thank you very much. We now have a quorum. Let's move on to item number 2, board meeting and public announcements. First printing on August 4th, 2026, located in your packets. That checks out. And then the second printing on August 9th, Sunday, also located in your packets, and that checks out. So both present. Moving on to item number 3, the approval of previous board minutes from June 9th, 2026, located in your packets. Any questions or questions? Okay. If there's none, may I call for a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the previous board minutes of June 9th, 2026.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. May I get a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Carl, for the second. Any further discussion? No, hearing and seeing none, may I call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, 5. Thank you very much. Motion passes for the approval of previous board minutes from June 9th, 2026. Thank you, Commissioners. Moving on to item number 4, new business and intent to award IV GHURA -26-014. The renovation of 4 units for Guma Tranquilidad in Tumon. Madam Executive Director, the floor is yours.
Thank
you, Chairman. This intentive award is canceled at this time. The bid package has to be resubmitted to the USDA for approval before we can proceed. So that intent of award is canceled because the bid package has to be resubmitted to USDA for approval. My apologies.
Okay, thank you very much. So noted that this one is canceled for resubmission. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 2. This is an intent to award IFB GHURA -26-015. The modernization of 7 public housing units at AMPS 1, 2, 3, and 4. Madam Executive Director, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman John. Intent of award IFB GHURA -26-015. Modernization of 7 public housing units at AMPS 1, 2, 3, and 4. Bid opening for the subject project was held on June 19th, 2026 at 2:00 p.m. A total of 9 bidders registered for the bid and given bid specifications, of which 3 submitted a bid. Listed below are the results of the bid submissions, which was opened and read out aloud publicly. Vendor number 1 was Guam Evergreen Construction Corp. With a 15% of the total bid amount for a bid bond. 60 calendar days is for this project, and awarded was base bid item number 1 at a cost of $173,000 and base bid item number 2 at a cost of $238,500 for a total amount of $411,500. Vendor number 2 was OH Construction with a bid bond of 15% of the total bid amount. They proposed a base bid item number 1 of $187,000, and they were awarded base bid item number 2 for $228,000. Their total bid was a total of $415,000. Vendor number 3 was Genesis Tech Corporation with a bid bond of 15% of the total bid amount. Base bid item number 1 was for $180,000 and base bid item number 2 was for $260,000 for a total bid amount of $440,000. The government estimate for this project was a total of $386,250.26. The following pages show a breakdown for each item description that was provided by the vendors. And if we go to page, it continues on the breakdown of the items. And then page 15 is the summary of the award. The Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority, GHURA's mission is to provide affordable, decent, safe, and sanitary housing through the maintenance of our existing units, to ensure that the facilities owned and managed by GHURA are safe and appealing to clients. Property site managers have identified projects within their AMPs that require rehabilitation and/or upgrades, not only to their public housing units, but the sites within their developments that are beyond the scope of maintenance repairs. Such projects include, but are not limited to, complete renovation of kitchens and bathrooms, electrical upgrades, plumbing, replacement of interior and exterior doors, and other substantial physical changes that require upgrades to the units and the sites. In review of the bid results, Guam Evergreen Construction Corp. And OH Construction provided the lowest responsive and responsible bids. The committee members determined to proceed with the award to Guam Evergreen Construction Corp. For base bid item number 1 in the amount of $173,000 and OH Construction for base bid item number 2 in the amount of $228,000. The project timeline for both base bid number 1 and number 2 is 60 calendar days with no option periods. And if you have any questions, I believe we do have our A&E manager and staff in the room.
Thank you very much, Madam Executive Director. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
I have a question. The bid bond required for these projects, is it only going to be 15% of the actual award for each individual construction company?
Oh, so this is the
Not there.
requirement, but this is the requirement upon the 15% upon the submittal. However, we do require the 100% performance bond.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you
Thank
hear
you.
that, Commissioner?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Thank you. Want to make sure. Any other questions?
No.
Madam Executive Director, this is just the standard renovation after people move out,
Yes,
right?
yes.
In order to prep it for the next tenants?
I believe what happens is the site managers monitor their units, and I believe when they do become vacant is when they determine, and the deputy can chime in, determine whether it's a unit that really at that time, because it's becoming vacant, needs to go through the modernization.
Right. Okay.
Correct, that's accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we know we're tracked, but we want to wait till it,
All right. So this is just a standard in between.
correct.
Yeah.
I mean, not the same as unit turnaround, but we try to align the modernization when the unit's vacant, so we can take it off, vacant, so we can take it off, right? It beats having to like shuffle families around
Okay.
to modernize the unit.
Okay. Any other questions, commissioners? No? Okay. If not, may I get a motion on the floor?
Make a motion.
Sure.
I move to approve the tentative award IFB GHURA 26-015 modernization of 7 public housing units at AMPS 1, 2, 3, and 4 to BoC Evergreen Construction Corp. for their base bid number 1 in the amount of $173,000. And OH Construction for base bid item number 2 is the amount of $228,000. With a project timeline for both base bid item number 1 and number 2 at 60 calendar days with no option period.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. We have a motion on the floor. May I get a second? Thank you, Commissioner Carr, for the second. Any further discussion? Hearing seeing none, may I call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. Thank you very much, Commissioners. Motion passes unanimously for IFB GHURA -26-015. Moving on to resolution number FY 2026-021. A resolution approving the detailed appointment extension for an additional 90 days for calendar year 2026 for Christopher R.A. Untalon. This is CDBG-DR program. Madam Executive Director, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman. Resolution number FY 2026-021. Resolution approving the detailed appointment extension for an additional 90 days for calendar year 2026 for Christopher R.A. Untalon under the CDBG-DR program. Whereas pursuant to Section 5104, Title 12 of the Guam Code Annotated, the Board of Commissioners of the Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority, GHURA, is given the right and responsibility to govern and control the operations of the authority and to establish policies for its day-to-day operations, and generally to undertake its responsibilities as supreme authority for the agency. And whereas the Board of Commissioners of GHURA is empowered to establish a position classification and pay plan for each class of position necessary to carry out the responsibilities of the authority, and is subject to our position classification and salary administration plan of the authority. And whereas the Board of Commissioners recognizes the need for continuity in the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery CDBG-DR program, and needed the detailed assignment to cover a computer systems analyst 2 duties. And whereas CDBG-DR management appointed Mr. Christopher R.A. Untalon, Computer Systems Analyst 1, to serve in the detailed capacity of a Computer Systems Analyst 2 from March 3rd, 2026 to May 31st, 2026, the initial 90 days. And whereas the staff identified above has met the job's qualification of work experience required for the position. And whereas in accordance with GHURA Personnel Rules and Regulations, Section 4.806E, management now requests the Board of Commissioners to approve the detailed appointment extension of Mr. Christopher R.A. Untalan from June 1st, 2026 through August 29th, 2026, 90 days. And whereas funding for this position is available under CDBG-DR funds. And now therefore be it resolved that the detailed appointment extension for Mr. Christopher R.A. Untalan is hereby approved. And if you have any questions, we do have our CDBG-DR grants management manager, Deputy Director Esteves in the room, as well as I believe our HR staff.
Thank you very much. Didi, did you want to add anything to that?
No, just that, for some of the ones where we're doing detailed appointments, it's actually a cost saving measure instead of having to pick up another body. Part of this is because we're actually limited on physical space to have personnel. And so this is one of the ways we adapt, especially for specialized positions that you'll see in HR or MIS as an example.
And this
Finance as well.
And this is just the 90 days.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
So can we explain, so this is an extension, is he now a two, analyst two?
He's detailed into a 2,
Right.
computer analyst 2, correct?
So what was the rules? I think there's only so many days, 120 days for
Per year.
Per year, right?
Sure.
This will go
He's
past
gonna-
100.
I don't believe so, no.
No.
Hopefully not.
So that's tracked by HR before we generate the memo. So they have a tracking system to make sure we don't go over the maximum detail.
So like two details, so it's 180 days, right?
Correct. There's a total of 180 days, but what we do is there's some at the level of the executive director, and then we come to the board for the rest for a cumulative aggregate total of 180 days.
But all within lines of the parameters.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
As long as it's in the scope.
Yeah, and part of it you consider, right? So if we go out to hire the additional body, one, we don't have the space for it, right? We also want to make sure people are compensated appropriately for the work that they're doing, especially if it's advanced. We don't have the space for the body. But when you balance, okay, 180 days, right? Versus I'm gonna hire somebody, but I'm only hiring you for 6 months. We're not gonna fill the body, especially for a technical position or specialized position. And so this is just that the happy balance to make it work and get what we need done and make sure people are compensated for the work that they're doing.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions? Okay, none, may I get a motion on the floor? Commissioner Rice, did you have a question?
No, I've got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Making a motion on the floor.
Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve resolution approving the detailed appointment extension for an additional 90 days for calendar year 2026 for Mr. Christopher R.A. Ontalan, CDBG-DR program.
CDBG.
The addition of the 90 days from June 1st, 2026 through August 29, 2026.
This is for computer system analyst
Computers. It's true.
position. Okay. Thank you very much. I have a motion on the floor. May I get a second?
Second.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Torres, for the second. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, may I call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you, Commissioners. Motion passes. Moving on to item number 4, resolution number FY 2026-022. A resolution to create and approve the housing procurement specialist position. Madam Executive Director, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman. Resolution number FY 2026-022 Resolution to create and approve the housing procurement specialist position. Whereas pursuant to section 5104, title 12 of the Guam Code Annotated, the Board of Commissioners of the Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority, GHURA, is given the right and responsibility to govern and control the operations of the authority and to establish policies for its day-to-day operations and generally to undertake its responsibilities as supreme authority for the agency. And whereas the GHURA Board of Commissioners is empowered to establish a position classification and pay plan for each class of position necessary to carry out the responsibilities of the authority and is subject to the GHURA classification and salary administration plan of the authority. And whereas the Board of Commissioners recognizes that the new creation of a procurement housing specialist is necessary as the position is uniquely aligned to adhere to both federal and local procurement statutes. And whereas, given the new CDBG-DR project, it became more evident that a job analysis was merited. And whereas the Board of Commissioners further recognizes that the creation of the housing procurement specialist is also necessary under the principles of classification of equal pay for equal work. And whereas the Board of Commissioners acknowledges that the HR staff completed the necessary creation requirements as set forth in 4 GCA subsection 6303(1)(a) for the creation of positions. And whereas the Board of Commissioners desires to amend GHURA's organization plan as adopted in the fiscal year 2026 budget by establishing the following creation of position for the procurement division. Housing procurement specialist, pay grade M, hay evaluation, know-how, E112200, or I'm sorry, know-how is II2200.
That's correct. Yeah.
Is that correct? And
Yes.
then problem solving is D3 in parentheses 3366. Accountability D1S 76 for a total points of 342. Whereas funding for the creation of this position is available under CDBG-DR and COCC funds respectively. And now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to 4 GCA section 6303, the authority now creates and establishes said position into the classified service. And if you have any questions, I believe we do have our HR staff in the room and our procurement administrator.
So this position is, you're gonna go under, GHURA's organizational chart. Is this intended to, live past the CD?
No, this is beyond CDBG-DR. This is actually going to replace the buyer position. The
Oh.
buyer position's outdated, has nowhere close to what's needed today. In particular, the requirement to understand both the local statute and the federal requirements under 2 CFR 200. It's much more technical and complicated to conduct than procurement was back then. It's a lot more rules, a lot more checks, audit requirements. So the technical know-how is not consistent with what we need today. So knowing this and knowing the need to retain in the long term qualified procurement staff that have both the capacity, experience, and technical know-how to make sure one little detail doesn't derail millions of dollars of project. We needed to make sure that we reevaluated the position, at least for the agency, and not wait for the rest of government in Guam, and make sure we do right by our federal grantors and people we serve. So this is what that does, right? Because we see, how one little hiccup in procurement, puts millions of dollars at risk, right? Those are buyers and buyer twos. These are folks making as much as a clerk responsible for the procurement. Yeah, so we, part of the hay also evaluates impact of the work that they do.
So you're phasing out the buyer positions and replacing them with
Correct.
the correct, more technical and more up to.
Correct.
Okay.
So modern position.
More modern. I mean, you'll see procurement specialists, what they have even in the federal side. But it really is more of a niche specialization than what it was given credit for. It's more than just process. It's definitely knowing how to research independently and understand in greater depth.
So it's kind of more in depth.
It's not a clerical process and the current buyer position treats it and pays it as such, and it's not gonna work. You're not gonna keep the people you need to get it done right.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm surprised you don't have one yet, that's what.
We've been watching it for a while, I think, and you've seen the evolution because, not to talk to me, it's record, but for a good while, all GHURA had was a buyer too doing all the procurement.
Right.
But as, timelines got clinched and things got more complicated, especially during COVID, we had to really form it into a division unto itself to make sure that, all of the things are one track, done properly.
Right.
And still done expeditiously, right? So there's no corners cut. It's just one of those, no corners should be cut, but definitely not in procurement.
Glad we're doing this. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, commissioners, any other questions on this? Okay, if not, may I call for motion?
Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution to create and approve the housing procurement specialist position. Under the CDBG-DR and COCC. Let me just redo it, legal.
Sure, sir,
Yes.
do you want to just take a look at that, the yellow highlighted?
Yeah.
Oh, you got it,
Yeah.
great, then you have one yourself, so.
Right, thank you. All right, so just make a resolution to approve FY 262-022 resolution to create an approved housing procurement specialist position, and I move to approve resolution FY 2026-22 create an approved housing procurement specialist position at pay grade M with a total pay evaluation and points of 342. Funding for this position to be provided through CDBG-DR and COCC funds.
Thank you very much. I have a motion on the floor. Make it a second on that.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Rice, for your second. Any further discussion on this? Hearing and seeing none, may I call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you very much. Motion passes for resolution number FY 2026-022. Moving on to the last of new business, resolution number FY 2026-023. Resolution approving the write-off of tenant accounts receivable as of June 30th, 2026. Madam Executive Director, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman. Resolution number FY 2026-023. Resolution approving the write-off of tenant accounts receivable as of June 30, 2026. Whereas the Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority, GHURA, is the Guam Public Housing Authority that provides decent homes and suitable living environments for Guam families of low income to afford to pay for safe, sanitary, and decent dwelling accommodations. And whereas the governance and well-being of GHURA is vested in the Board of Commissioners, BoC, and empowered by 12 Guam Code Annotated Chapter 5, Section 5104, and whereas BoC Resolution number FY 2018-002, resolution adopting the write-off policy for uncollectible accounts for GHURA rental properties, and whereas in the normal course of business, the authority is involved in transactions that result in monies being owed to GHURA for which they are unable to collect, and as necessary, and whereas the property site managers and Section 8 administrator submit summaries of debts considered for write-off to prevent overstating of assets which are affecting the authority's financial performance, and whereas currently GURA's receivables include outstanding accounts which have remained in GURA's books for over 90 days as of June 30, 2026, as indicated below. Property site AMP2 with a write-off amount of $421. Property site AMP4 with a write-off amount of $6,650.92. Property site CPD with a write-off amount of $68,022.64. Property site Section 8 with a write-off amount of $76,938.50 for a total write-off amount of $152,040.06. Whereas GURA, through the property site managers and Section 8 administrator, exert diligent collection efforts in pursuit of outstanding receivables, and although ongoing collection efforts are abandoned on these accounts, GURA reserves the right and duty to collect should the opportunity arise. And whereas it is in accordance with GURA's procedure and good business practices to write off accounts receivables after all reasonable collection procedures have been exhausted and there is not a reasonable expectation that the accounts will be collected. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the BoC approves writing off $152,040.06 of GURA receivables after all reasonable collection procedures have been exhausted and there is not a reasonable expectation that the accounts will be collected. And then the pages following, from pages 24 to page 35, is a listing of the write-offs, if in case you wanted to see what those write-off amounts were. And if you have any questions, we do have some like Bernie from AMP4, and Gina from AMP2, as well as Nicole Alejandro from Section 8, available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. I know that this is a standard practice that we do just to make sure that the books are clean. But every time we have this, I think the question is there any new updates by way of any new information that we can glean from some of these write-offs about the state of the tenants or the state of how things are going, just for any informational purposes? Is there any of that we glean from this, or is it still the same from previous write-offs?
I think with the apps and, the app managers can chime in if they need, or PSMs can chime in if they need to. This is pretty standard, and you see the fluctuation, like as we said, like one abandoned unit could cost more depending on the state of the unit versus, one mixed rent, and so it all varies between the tenants. And then for Section 8, and Nicole, correct me if I'm wrong, if I refer you to the table that's provided, right, and you see actually what that reflects is the enhanced controls in fraud detection. And so, those would literally, for the most part, could be the portion of the rent within a month or two, and they're catching it and demanding that repayment, or they've moved or they're terminating the program. We still, try to collect, but, for the most part, not going to take somebody to court for $700, right? We'll put it into collections or something like that to get it back. But what it demonstrates was the expediency of catching, and for the most part, again, correct, step in whenever you want, Nicole. A lot of it are in the unreported income. So when we do the income verifications and we go looking to see if what they're reporting is matching up through various systems, we're finding out that, it's not as they say, and then we go to collection. And so monies get forfeited, right? Oftentimes they'll have to repay, right? Especially if it's inadvertent, to stay on the program, or they're terminated. And then they still owe the money back. And it's, even though it's a write-off, it still goes to revenue tax and they can collect in the future.
I was gonna ask you about that. How's that been working out in terms of our revenue taxation and collection?
I mean, it comes, but if they're not on island, then revenue tax is not catching them,
Sure.
right? But the debt follows them where they go. At some point, it gets remitted. I couldn't tell you the frequency of that. I mean, it really all depends. They may just never apply for a federal program again and not work
Right.
and receive income. That's taxable.
Right.
Do you have anything you want to add to that, Nicole? Is that about right?
Yeah, and it actually does follow the tenant as well. So if they were to try to apply for another PAH, Public Housing Authority, this information will be sent to them. So they will actually see that the receivables are there as well. But everything that Deputy had mentioned, yes, that is accurate.
Okay, thank you. So there's a data point that we can glean from this. It's really that that regardless of what you see on the amounts, however high or varied that is from time to time as we do this, really the storyline here is that the controls in place are working because we're catching them faster, more accurately, and we're able to hold people accountable. But the collection side is different.
Yeah, and
But
the
The
law,
controls are working.
correct,
Yeah.
and the loss is substantially less than the national average,
Okay,
right? Well below, right, Nicole?
Nations.
Yes.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that's the,
Yeah.
this, the one with the 67,000. Let's pull that.
CPD?
Yeah, can you just explain that a little?
Do we have can't see who's online. Miss Liz, do we have Jolyn on the line?
No, she's not, but if you look on page 28 of 53, there is a letter from Kathy and Jolynn, and it has to do with that write-off. And so it indicates down payment closing cost assistance program, renewal affordable home mortgage program, and the Renaissance affordable rental program. The balances have remained unpaid for over 90 days despite multiple attempts of collecting via phone calls, emails, reminder notices, and other recovery efforts. And based on their review, the accounts are considered uncollectible and recommend writing off the outstanding balances totaling that amount, the $67,752.64, in addition to $270 in Department of Revenue and Taxation fees, and that it is forwarded to the Department of Revenue and Taxation for garnishment. And they do have page 29 lists what those amounts are from.
I think the biggest one.
From what properties they were.
I think the biggest category is BPCCA loans. If I'm reading that correctly.
Yes.
Yeah,
You
down
want-
payment and closing costs loans.
Okay.
So I believe Miss Liz, right, correct me if I'm wrong, is what happens is if they apply for the program, part of it is they have to keep the house for X amount of years. So some instances, they can't keep up with the mortgage payment for their part. They foreclose on the loan, then that forecloses on the assistance that was provided and they pull that back.
Okay, so that's where the amounts.
Or something else
Yeah,
happens with the
Yeah.
house.
Yeah, okay. Okay,
Thank you.
okay, any other questions, commissioners?
Thank you.
If none, may I call for a motion?
I have one last one.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Foreclosure, what happens to the property?
We secure it, don't we? Well, it depends on the actual program. So if it's just the down payment assistance, the bank would have it, because we're only providing the down payment assistance, they would have to pay that back. But then the bank would foreclose on the house normally. But it depends on the actual program, because you have some where we're actually putting money into the construction of the home, it would return to us, and then we would, for another eligible family to have a chance.
Okay.
It does depend on the program. But this one, this is just the down payment assistance, so it would be the bank, I would say, more for motion.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
And
May-
some of
may I call-
those, if I may, and some of those do date back, like if you look at the last payment dates, like some are as far back as 2017, so they're even older than the 90 days. So yeah, it was time for them to write it off.
Okay, may I call for a motion?
Posing a motion, I move to approve resolution number FY 2026 as 023, approving write-off tenant accounts receivable as of June 30th, 2026, in total amount of $152,040.06 from the Bureau's receivable after all reasonable collection procedures have been exhausted. There is no reasonable expectation that these accounts will be collected.
Right, I have a motion on the floor, make it a second.
Second.
Right, thank you, Commissioner Torres, for the second. Any further discussion? No? Here seeing none, may I call for the vote? All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Commissioner Emily?
Yeah,
Yes, vote?
yes, I did.
All right,
Yes,
thank you. The screen was changing. Thank you.
right.
Motion passes for resolution number FY 2026-023. Moving on to item number, or Roman numeral number 5, correspondences and reports. Deputy Director. Floor is yours.
Good day, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. And I do apologize. I know it says trip report. The trip report was actually submitted. This is actually a white paper that really expands on the trip information. We already knew, but information we gathered and proposing as a read ahead for consideration where we may consider taking the agency in the future. So the title, I'm not going to go through the whole report, but discuss it briefly and answer any questions you may have. I hope you've all had an opportunity to read ahead. So this is regards to transforming Guam's housing future, a capital empowered strategy for affordable workforce and mixed income housing development. So it's important to understand the context. Everybody, community developers and public housing authorities know and all agree, regardless of what political affiliation they have, and as well as government officials and on the political side, all have the understanding that the traditional funding models for housing development or community development projects is not secure, it's not going to stay the same, and it's not sustainable. And so where jurisdictions are, whether they're a public housing authority somewhere else, or they're a community developer, or some at the state and county level, are looking at other ways to be more self-sufficient as co-developers and looking towards public-private partnerships, especially with the successes they've seen with Opportunity Zone. And so what they presented and we've been talking about and where we're looking to go is towards capital stacking. Capital stacking are taking available programs, U.S. Department of Treasury programs and opportunities, and start combining them. How do you combine these different capital outlays that are out there so you're not just relying on your grants? So how do you go from a community developer or public housing authority, takes the very limited grant money you have, stack that with an essential bond as an example, or investors putting into a community development financial institution, right, to reap those tax benefits and have larger projects that actually make an impact in the community. So the idea behind this is setting up your organization. How would we would set up GHURA to be not only an operator of the funds, but a strategic co-developer for the private sector on Guam, right? And so because one, it provides access to these great financial tools that are out there that are limited to either the government. So for us, it's like those would be the grants, where then you would have financial tools available to nonprofits, and then you would have some available to the private market. So how do you stack these different financial tools to actually get money coming in? The potential to bring in hundreds of millions of dollars, tens to hundreds of millions of dollars in private investment into Guam is not unreasonable at all, if not more. And so what we're looking to do, and to talk a couple of things, right? I think you've heard the buzz about Opportunity Zone 2.0, right? Which is kind of expands and solidifies, it's now solidified under the US tax code. And this is gonna provide great financial incentive for private investment, whether local or from the mainland. Now, the access to that is you can stack that with, one, we could stack that with our existing grants if we're co-developing any of these projects. But we could also stack that with existing things like like partnering with community development financial institutions that collect or they have revenue and money available that investors, put into a portfolio or even philanthropists, because it provides them tax benefits. So they're looking, these CDFIs are great partners because they're looking for projects to invest in because it's helping out their investors, right? Now accessing that is very different. So one of the most successful models is taking an organization like GHURA, it's a public housing agency, right, or the Public Housing Authority, but also creating a nonprofit affiliate of the organization that's able to go after additional funding or funding limited to that. And that's been a successful model for public housing authorities in other parts of the country, East, West, and Central. And so people are really PHAs are really unlocking these financial tools, and I'm hoping to do the same for Guam. So what the white paper does is it provides some of those examples of capital opportunities, financial tools that are available, but also lays out the roadmap to how to get there, right? How we're gonna have to adjust organizationally, what we would need to do, the groundwork we would need to lay, if any legislation is required for us to put forth a nonprofit affiliate, and then how we would build organizationally towards where we need to be, right? Because once we build as a co-developer, the idea is we're able to partner with our local construction companies, and that is actually very favorable to a lot of private-public partnerships because there's a mutual benefit, right? And there's a mutual downfall. It's not going to be one side or the other holding the bag, and that's been one of the big issues with development. One, you don't have enough money to really do the projects that we need to do, need to be done for the community. Having the ability to leverage other funding sources to fill in the gaps and glue these capital stacks together is going to be great. But for the private sector to come in and actually at a better price because there's lower risk for them, because they are partnered with the government on it, is also going to bring down the costs, right? And reducing that risk. And so I do hope that you have been able to read ahead. If you have any questions, I'm here to discuss. So if you look also in the appendix, we kind of lay out a little bit of a framework of what we would need to do in terms of. Sorry. No, actually, that's in the plan. This is just the white paper. So I do have a few addendums that kind of lay that out, but those are work products right now. As far as the staff report, so I did attend, and then 2 members of the DR team did attend too. So I do want to give credit as contributors to Carolyn Chartwell and to Asakisa, who provided additional information, their own data points from their perspective and their takeaways from the summary. And those are included in the white paper as well in the appendix. But yes, subject to your questions, I don't want to take any more of your time. It's been quite a long meeting already.
I was able to go through it. Well done, right? Thank you, Dee, for laying this out. I think, it's probably important also to note that it's not just the innovation piece, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, it's not, from what I gained from these PHAs also, it's not just about the innovation on the leverage of funding or the development pieces. It's also because of the need to venture into these realms, because the traditional ways of housing authorities and the funding sources of those are already being shifted and drying up, right?
Correct.
Which is causing us some of the problems that we're having right now. Is we're having limited budgets, right? And that's not just us, that's a nationwide dilemma, right? Housing agencies are getting underfunded. And so they're having to do the same type of work with populations that need it, and populations are not going away or getting smaller, but with smaller budgets. So part of that push is also to help us out of some of those constraints, right?
Absolutely. I mean, whether it's on the community development side for housing or public housing in general, affordable housing, to have affordable housing needs it's subsidized. And the subsidies have been decreasing or not, actually not keeping pace. I don't want to say decreasing, but really not keeping pace with the pace of inflation. And it's, you know, should, at least in our industry, should be common sense at this point, like, it's not sustainable. Affordable housing, there's no money in it, right? And so that's why even private developers don't really want to touch it. I mean, the light tech's nice for a little bit, but that goes away and it just becomes a liability.
Yeah.
Right? The balance is what we've always known, which is you need a mixed income stream. One, for the benefit of the community, two, so you can sustain the property and see it really grow, make sure, right? And that's really the goal ever since we've laid out our strategic plan and what we're trying to do and what we laid out in the housing summit. Mixed income is where we need to go, right? And so if we're gonna, and that's gonna be key for any public partnership, private partnership that we do, is that it needs to be financially solvent, right? The grants are not gonna cover it. The grants really, for the most part, cover construction operationally. That we're on their own, and the math isn't gonna map. That's just a fact. So mixed income is the way to go. So that way you have a diverse enough income stream that you can at least properly maintain.
And that's sustainable
That's sustainable
long term instead of
So-
just relying on something transient.
Yeah, so that would be beneficial in these types of capital stacking and public-private partnerships, is that financial solvency is great for the agency, right, which has to deliver service. The private partner, right, who's gonna have some ownership stake and has to, you know, make their return on their investment. And then also, the bonding for favorable rates, the project has to look good for their investors. And so there's the potential for the win-win, right? And it reduces risk because nobody's gonna be left holding the bag. And that's kind of what it has been if you're trying to deal with the a government agency with federal funds.
Right.
And so the new way are private companies, these CDFIs, these essential bond funds, construction companies coming together with PHA saying, look, we can't depend on the feds. We need to figure out how we're gonna work together because they're messed up.
Right.
That's basically what it is, regardless of what political affiliation they have. That's a general consensus. Can't rely on the federal government. They're pretty clear. They're not going to do anything to help the situation along, right? In terms of subsidies.
Okay. Well, again, right, thank you for this. Thank you for your colleagues, Ms. Sharlov and like you said, right, for putting this together. You know, definitely this, you don't have to go this far, but this is why GHURA is in the state that it is, right? That's why DGR is here, DR is here. Because of the work that people have chosen to do for the good. So thank you for all your work. Really appreciate it.
I'll let the team know, sir.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 6, general discussion and announcements. Madam Executive Director, any announcements?
Sorry, no, I don't have any at this time.
And if not, right, we have our next proposed scheduled board meeting for Tuesday, August 25th, 2026 at 12 p.m. Commissioners, please mark your calendars, and of course, we will confirm that date. If there's nothing further, may I call a motion to adjourn? Can I get a motion?
Make a motion to.
Okay, can I get a second?
So.
All right.
Second.
Anybody disagree? Okay. If not, I call this meeting at 12:56. Thank you very much, Commissioners.
Thank
Have a great
you.
week.